Money Shark Club.
If you were to write a golden rule of becoming wealthy, what do you think it would be?
Live below your means and be patient. That's it. That's 90% of finance. That is 90% of finance. That's not even like the simplified version. If you can actually do that, you have a PhD in finance. That's what it requires.
If the people of the internet want to watch me and you mud wrestle for money, there is a pay-per-view audience out there.
I have a price for everything. There's a price.
There's a price on everyone's head. Look, man, let's get started. So, this is the third time on the show this year. So to everyone on the internet who is wondering, things are getting pretty serious between me and Morgan now. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I always enjoy our conversations, so I'm happy to come back for a third and hopefully more times after this. We'll see if I don't screw it up here for the third time, and hopefully there'll be a forthcoming later this year.
That's the plan, man. That's the plan. So before we get started, you got a new book out, Psychology of Money. Why should anyone listen to you on finances? What are your credentials?
Well, here's the thing about money. I don't think that credentials necessarily move the needle. That's not true in a lot of fields. If I wrote a book about medicine or aerospace engineering or dentistry, you should not listen to anything that I have to say. Finance, though, is very different because what matters in finance is not necessarily what you know. It's not about how smart you are or the education that you have or the sophistication, the credentials that you have. Doing well with finances, whether it's investing or personal finances, is overwhelmingly has to do with how you behave. It has to do with just your relationship with greed and fear, how you think about long-term thinking, and who you trust, how gullible you are. Those kind of soft topics that is not necessarily what you know. It doesn't matter if you went to Harvard and you worked at Goldman Sachs. If you lose your head during March of 2020 or in 2008, none of that stuff matters anymore. So what's important about investing, I'll give you my credentials. I have been a full-time investing analyst and writer for 13 years. I've been researching and focusing on kind of the intersection of investing history and behavioral finance. The history of how we think about money, what we can learn from those lessons, and how we can think about finances in a more productive way. That's what I've done, and this book is kind of the culmination of the 20 most important things that I learned during that period. I try to wrap it in with a bunch of stories that have nothing to do with investing, but they all have a really important takeaway about how we can think about risk with our money in a more coherent way.
So it's called The Psychology of Money. Why should we be bothered at all about the psychology of money? Money's just numbers in and numbers out, isn't it?
See, that's what people get thrown off, I think. I think that's the root of a lot of financial problems for amateurs and professionals, is that we want to think of finance like it is physics. And in physics, there are very clean formulas. There are precise answers with precision that never change over time. So if you roll a ball down a hill, we know exactly how fast it's going to roll, and that answer is the same today as it was 200 years ago. Very precise. Investing is just not like that at all. It's a human endeavor. It's much closer to, I think, I think the best analogy is probably medicine. Look, in medicine, there are facts, there are formulas, there are precise things that we know about how the body works. But people's relationship with medicine is very personal and very nuanced and very behavioral. A lot of what matters in medicine in the modern world is how healthy are you? Do you eat proper diet? Do you exercise? Do you smoke? How stressed are you? Those are behavioral things that feed into the process of modern medicine, but not in a really precise scientific way. It's this mushy, nuanced, sociology-driven thing. And I think with medicine too, if you take two people with identical cancers, they might come to completely different conclusions on what is worth it for them. One person might say chemotherapy, throw the kitchen sink at it. Another person might say, just give me some pain meds, let me be comfortable, and I just want to let nature take its course. And those answers might be right for those two different people. There's no one right answer. Finance is totally the same, where I can tell you what I do with my money. Here's how much I save, here's how I invest it, here's how I spend it. And that answer might work perfectly for my wife and I, and it might be nuts for you or someone else. Everyone's going to come to different conclusions, just like we do with medicine. So that's why I think the psychology of money is so important. The other thing is, we know how finance works. We've made a lot of progress in terms of the technical side of finance over the last 100 years. If you go back 100 years ago, we didn't understand things like discounted cash flows. And dividend discount models. That information wasn't in the social sphere, but we do now. We've made academic finance has figured out how finance works, and what is left for us to exploit, what is left for us to get better at, is the psychological side of money.
Got you. So what does money get us?
Obviously, what it clearly gets us is stuff. It's a thing that you can use to buy stuff. That's the obvious answer. And look, I like stuff as much as anyone else. This is not a plea to live like a monk, but there's a lot else that money does for people. And to me, it took me a while to figure this out. But once I kind of realized it, it was so transformational just for me personally, that what money does is it gives you options over your future and it lets you control your time. And I think the highest dividend that money pays, the best thing that I can do with my money, is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. It's a sense of independence and a sense of freedom, a sense of controlling my calendar that lets me do stuff. And it's not to say that I don't like Ferraris and Bentleys as much as anyone else. I do. But what I really want out of my money that's going to make me happier than any of those things is enough savings, enough wealth that I've built up and saved over time without spending so that I have control over my future. If I want to quit my job and go do something else, I can do that. I've got the savings for it. If I want to move, I can do that. Take 6 months off, I can do that. If I were to get sick or there's an emergency, it's fine. It's not going to force me into anything I don't want to do financially. I've got savings to keep me going. It's that level of independence that I want. Charlie Munger years ago, Charlie Munger is a multi-billionaire, and he once told someone, he said, I have no desire to get rich. I just always wanted a glorious independence. And as soon as I read that, it was like, that's me too. Like, do I want to be rich? Like, sure. Do I want, the huge house on the lake? Of course, like anyone else, of course. But what I really want is a glorious independence. That's what I want money to do for me. And I think a lot of people want that as well without knowing it, without having that point clarified to them. It's like they wouldn't explicitly say that, but if you introduce that to them, an independence to do whatever you want, a lot of people would say, yeah, that's actually what I want in life. It's just the freedom to do what I want.
It's strange how people's desires get so conflated, right? Like the same as when you ask people what would make you happy and they think it's the house, they think it's the car, they think it's the new expensive bag or whatever it might be. But when you strip it back and you listen to some super Eckhart Tolle remind you that it's to do with being present and being in the moment, or spending time with people that you care about, etc., etc. But it does require a Morgan Housel, an Eckhart Tolle, whatever, to cut through the kind of the social norms and what people expect. And I think that's definitely one of the main takeaways. Everyone that's listening needs to go back, because Morgan's been on twice already this year. Go back and listen to episode 1. That's the prequel. Then we did a special COVID edition just as the market was going absolutely berserk, kind of late March. That's the DVD extra, director's cut, and then this is the what's the third one? The sequel. The third.
This is the Netflix special.
This is the Netflix special. Yeah, that is correct. So yeah, go back and listen to those. But what I can do, because you've been on so much, is I can quote you back to you of all of my favorite stuff that you've said. So my favorite one is money allows you to do what you want, when you want, for as long as you want, with whoever you want, without anyone telling you otherwise. That's it. That is what it does for you. So what does it not get you?
What doesn't it get you? I mean, look, money gets you a lot. So what doesn't it get you? I think the better way to frame that is, what are you likely to overestimate getting from money? And a lot of it, the physical things, and I have to reiterate, like I like nice things too, but the physical things you just get used to over time. A lot of it is because if you were to get a nice car or a nice house, you kind of move the goalpost of your socioeconomic status. So let's just use extreme examples. Let's say you go out and buy a Ferrari. You're probably going to start hanging out with other people who have Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Aston Martins, and all of a sudden your goalpost has shifted. So if you're driving the Honda Civic, then the Ferrari level looks amazing. But once you get to the Ferrari level, you just adjust your expectations to that level, and then the joy that you get from it, the social status, it's not that it's not there, it's less than you would think it was. What's important about controlling your time is this. A lot of what makes people happy is not adding positive things, it's removing negative things. And if you don't have control of your time, so let's flip this around. People who do not have control over the time, people for whom they have to wake up at a certain time and go to work at a specific hour and do things at work that they don't want to do, but their boss makes them do it. Your whole day is structured by someone else's priorities. That is a kind of thing that is likely to bring negativity to your life permanently. If you never have control over your time, that is something that is statistically correlated with people who are less happy than other people. So it's not that controlling your time adds happiness necessarily, it's that it removes displeasure. and in a way that if you were to do it, so people who have control over the time, it's not that they have more good days, it's that they have fewer bad days than people who are don't have control over the time. So it's an important way to keep that into context too. And this is why people who are very wealthy are not just walking blobs of happiness, like exuding like pleasure. They're normal people just like everyone else, because having that money, it doesn't necessarily make you, it just removes a lot of the bad things in life. So I think that is what money does not bring us. We are, I think, programmed to overestimate the pleasure that we get from stuff. And even the pleasure that we get from controlling our time is a little bit more nuanced in the sense that it's just removing bad rather than adding good.
Being rich might not make you happy, but being poor will make you miserable.
I think that's it. My mother-in-law, I actually brought this up on your show, so I don't want to.
I love it. I love it. It's the camping analogy, which I love. Get it out there. Tell us.
That's up. My mother-in-law brought up this thing years ago where she said, camping is fun, but being homeless is miserable. And they're the same thing. You're sleeping outside in a tent, but one is in your control, one you are doing on your own terms, and one you're not. That's the only difference that it makes, but it makes all the difference in the world. So I think it's the same. Look, for controlling my time, most days when I wake up, what I want to do, even if I have control over my time, what I want to do is go to work and do good work and be productive like everyone else. But I'm doing it on my own terms, on my own time, with people who I like, for a company that I want to work for. And that makes all the difference in the world. It makes all the difference. So that level of independence is all that I'm going for with money. That's all that I wanted. It's all that I'm really striving for in terms of my financial goals, is just incrementally, with every dollar of savings, being less reliant on others that I otherwise would be if I were in debt or had no savings and was relying on the kindness of others to make it through my life financially.
What you really need is vitamin M, money, McLaren, Mercedes. Subscribe.